namesake that I'm pretty proud of. The movie that has been translated into the most languages is the Jesus film. It has been translated into over 1,000 different languages around the world. It was first released in 1979, so in just under 30 years, it has reached a lot of people. It's kind of cool. I actually got to see it being presented to a group of people in the Andes Mountains in South America. This was the first time a movie had been translated into their own language, and they got to hear the message of Jesus for the first time in a language that they could properly understand. Pretty cool. Another stat that I'm pretty stoked about is this. The most translated book in the world is the Bible. It has been translated into so many different languages that 98% of the world have a whole Bible, or a partial Bible, in a language that they can fluently understand. The second best-selling book, the first being the Bible, is one called Quotations from Chairman Mao. It has supposedly been sold anywhere from 800 million copies to 6.5 billion copies. It's interesting to note that when China was a communist country, everyone was required to own one of these books. So it's really no surprise that it was a good-selling book. You know, you would have been put in jail or something if you didn't have one. So here's a question for you. What books have you read that have influenced you the most? Is there a book that you've read more than once because you've enjoyed it so much? For me, the Chronicles of Narnia are books that I have enjoyed very much. I honestly try to read them every couple of years because they really do influence the way I think. The way that C.S. Lewis puts things and says things about some really deep theological and Christian truth is just unbelievable in a way that anybody can understand it. The best-selling music album in the world is Michael Jackson's album Thriller. It's an album that has sold over 100 million copies worldwide. I've never listened to it, probably never will. Here's another question for you. What music album would you say have changed your life the most? For me, it was probably this album called Teenage Politics by MXPX. It's a punk band. It was released in the early 90s. I bought it on a cassette tape, that's how old school I am, and wore it out. I seriously wore out the cassette. It was one of those albums that I bought, and it really opened my eyes to a totally different style of music than I'd ever listened to before. I remember listening to it in my Walkman, that's before the iPod and the Discman, and in a beat-up cassette deck that I'd found and put batteries into. So, that was the random facts for this week. Hope you guys have a really good week, and I'll catch you guys later.
We ain't got no place to go. Let's go to